It reminds me swallow.
The bird?
The bird. The feeling just is pointed. We used to live towards the end of the war in the suburb of Warsaw. And we had a small room with two large windows facing each other. And during the summer we often kept one window open, but the other was closed. And often swallows will rush through one window and thinking that they can go through the other and get hit against the window pane of the other window.
While they're inside the room.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were picking up those swallows, which were kind of shocked.
The birds. Yeah,
right.
in plastic and feel
Right.
Like an illusion of freedom.
And we could feel the beating heart of the swallow, and then we would release them on the other end.
We were getting on the train, there was a gendarme that said to my father that, you know, he should give him all the money because he's not going to need it. And what they told us, and my father didn't do it, and what they told us was to go very light because we are going to work. So, you know, just take a toothbrush and don't take any baggage with you or any suitcase or anything. So I remember having high boots and a coat, and we got to the train and we sat in the train, and it was my father and my mother and my sister with a little girl. My sister had 2 children, and her husband had escaped from the ghetto with a little boy who was only 3. And as we were sitting in the train, you know, I was thinking, what bad things did I do in life? What was I going to be punished for? And what it's going to be like? And in the meantime, there were people that were saying goodbye, and there was a lady who was talking to her little girl, you know, about the dreams she had for her and all that. And my father knew the tracks, and he said, well, this is it, kids, this is Treblinka. So that was it. And, God, sorry. So, there was a Polish major in the group, and he said to the boys that, you know, we have nothing to lose, why don't we just organize and we're going to jump from the train? And I was sitting there listening, and I thought, well, you know, I always was a tomboy, I was not just a little girl. If they can do it, I can do it. So I just picked myself up, and my father was very much for it, and the doors were locked, and we could hear the gendarmes were having a wild drunken brawl in the car behind us, but the windows were not locked. So somebody opened the window, and about 9 boys, I think, got out the window and stood on the step of the train. And while the train was moving, it was at night, and it was in November, and there was just a little bit of snow, and it was pretty, it wasn't exactly frozen, it was just like sort of on the verge of freezing. So I said to my father that I want to jump from the train, and he said, yeah, go. So I took one leg on the outside, and he helped me put another leg. And then I heard people already jumping. So I just said, if I wait much longer, I am not going to be lost. And one of my father's brother, who was younger, also jumped from the train. So I thought, if I wait much longer, I'm going to lose track of them. So I jumped, and then my God, I didn't say goodbye, and blah, blah, blah. And then we all met, and there were 13 of us.
Childhood and early youth came to an abrupt end on September 1st, 1939. I remember the day vividly. It was a crisp, beautiful Friday. Mother and I were coming home from the farmer's market when I heard a loud siren. And the minute it came, I knew what it meant, and I complained to my mother, not another false alarm, to quickly get off the street, find shelter, and wait for the all clear signal. We've been doing it for weeks and weeks. How boring. I was 16, and boredom was my worst enemy. Mother and I were crossing the street, and I detected a strange noise in the sky. I hardly had time to look up when I heard a loud explosion, one after another. The ground shook. Bombs, real bombs, were coming down. September 1st, 1939 was the beginning of the Second World War. On the second day of the war, we passed a small town where the planes were bombing in a horrific way. And for the first time in my life, I saw dead animals and dead people. There were animals that were split open, and we could see the blood. And the same with people. It was the first time that I ever saw things like that. We just kept running. One after another, the ground shook. Bombs, real bombs, were coming down.
We had to walk at night and sit in forest during the day because the Germans did not go into forest. They were afraid because there were Russian deserters and all kinds of stuff. So we were pretty safe in the forests, and we walked and we walked and we walked for a long time until we came to where we had a home at a farm that we had, and we also had a home in the city that we were dispossessed from. So we walked and we walked, and when we finally got to where we knew that we could be, and we knew some people, and some people worked for my father, and he was always very nice to the people that worked for him, so I felt that, we should go there. So when we got there, my uncle and I got there, and I met my brother. So my brother said to me, "You silly little girl, you should have never jumped from the train because you will never survive, will never make it, and you should have gone with the family."
Eventually, a friend of my mother, who was also hiding in Warsaw but came to visit because it was kind of safer, went to the market and bought me my very own chicken. But unfortunately, we had to move later on, so we moved with that chicken, and we had to put this chicken among other strange chicken, and the chicken was on the very bottom of pecking order. So she was pecked a lot. And besides, unknown to us, when she was bought at the market, well, in the market they probably meant her to be killed and eaten, and not to be a pet laying eggs. She had a women disease, and she was not able to lay proper eggs. Her eggs were kind of soft, no calcium around, so it was kind of flop. And she suffered more and more, and my mother said that we have to kill her. And I, of course, objected. And then, without telling me, she did kill her, and she served it to me. And so I ate it before I knew whom I ate. First, I make a metaphor. So there are both German soldiers and a fence, and me as a chicken, surrounded by them and trying to run around.
Oh, so you are the chicken.
I am
The home. It was late at night. My parents, my brother and sister were asleep. I was up reading, and all of a sudden I became hungry. And I knew that the bread was long gone. I was looking for something to just grab a bite. But I remember that day Mother brought our sugar rations, and she kept it in a brown bag behind the dishes. So I tiptoed to the bag, quietly opened it up, put a teaspoon, that's the way I describe it in the book, into the glittering pile, and I took a half a teaspoon, and I thought I would take another half a teaspoon. Then I thought one more and that's it, and I couldn't stop. And I ate about half of the sugar for everybody. the whole family. And next morning, mother saw it and didn't say a word. So that's what this reminded me of. Well, we lived in a ghetto for about 3 years, when rumors began to circulate that the Germans had a new way, a much more efficient way of killing us off. They formed the so-called Sonderkommando, which was a special unit of Gestapo men that would travel from city to city, surround the ghetto, keep only a small group of healthy, mostly young men, and send everyone else in sealed boxcars to the gas chambers of Treblinka. Well, when the news hit our ghetto, it was instant panic and despair and desperation. People couldn't talk about anything else but that. There was one person that completely ignored it. It was my grandfather. He was an Orthodox religious man, and whenever he heard us talk about it, he would get angry and shout, "It's a lie. It's a big lie. God would not allow it." Well, I did believe the rumors. I didn't want to get in any of those cars. I was 19, and I didn't want to die. I began to nag my mother and say, there must be something that we can do. We have to look for a way out. We can't just sit and wait to be killed. Well, my once self-confident, brave mother by then was totally resigned. And she just asked me, please leave me alone. What will happen to others will happen to us. But next day, she came up with an idea and said, if Danka gave you her ID, you might have a chance. Her mother described to them our situation and asked if Danka could let me have her ID, and just reported as lost or stolen and get another one. Well, she said, I cannot decide it on my own. I have to talk to Mother first, and we will come back and let you know. When the girls left, I was sure I would never see him again. I assumed Mrs. Justina would be afraid to take a chance. But a few days later, they were back. And instead of one ID, they had 3 of them. One for my mother, for my sister, and myself. I still remember the look my parents exchanged. It was total disbelief. Suddenly, there was a glimmer of hope for us.
Now, we left these white lines in for each piece of paper, so we have a network of these white lines showing up.
I don't know what it is.
Does it remind you of anything?
Filters, maybe,
What do you mean by that?
for water management, cleaning water, and in 2 different places, 2 different times. Once was in Krakow, and at that time I was taken out of ghetto, and I was for about 6 weeks with a family, extremely poor Polish family, and he worked on this city, what is it? Filters, we call it. And once, probably there was some kind of danger, or they were afraid of something. Of course, he knew I was Jewish. He took me as Jewish child. But his children did not know. And he told me to get dressed in the morning and took me at the front of his bicycle. And he was biking to those filters and had some bread with him. That was great. And we spent whole day there. And second time, there was, we lived in Warsaw. My mother rented a room from a woman who was wife of prisoner of war, Polish officer, and had 2 daughters. And the window from this room was opening on the same filters also. It was this green space and now a nice day on the filters that first time. Second time, my father was visiting us at that apartment. And once when he was coming to visit us, and that was a short time, maybe 1 month before he was caught. One day he came very upset. He came somewhat later and said that some German Gestapo, SS-man, whatever, Nazi, caught him and took him to those filters territory and was about to shoot him. And my father managed to kind of reach him and talk about he's having a daughter and a family and life and whatever. And eventually he let him go.
So the filters, at least temporarily saved them.
Right.
It's interesting.
I hear the little girl yell out, "O Jezu, gendarmi," in Polish. So my brother ran to the door, to the front door, and the two gendarmes were standing there. So he ran to the living room or whatever, broke a window. He got out first, I got out, and my uncle got out second, and I got out third. And there was another lady with a little girl that was even younger than I was. So my brother got out, and he kept on waving to me and calling me, and my uncle too. So this was in November, and the ground was soft, so when you put your foot in, there was an effort to pull your foot out. So my brother was first, my uncle was second, and I was third. And then I looked back and I saw that the lady with the little girl decided she couldn't run because they were right close to her. So she just went back and they put her aside of them, and they were shooting after us. And then the gendarmes that were traveling in the wagon on the road saw that we were running, so they started shooting. So I was stepping on bullets, like thinking, well, if I get hit, I hope I get hit, that I don't have to suffer. And that's what I kept on thinking, and I still kept on running. And then I saw my uncle lying down like this. And I thought, I should really lie down, they'll think I'm dead, and that'll be good. So then I remembered that someone told me that, they come and pull out your teeth and strip you to see if you have money. So I walked, because I couldn't walk anymore, and I wanted to say something to him, and I couldn't say it, I didn't have any voice. So then I saw my brother in the woods already, and it must have been maybe, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a mile. And he was waving me on, and I didn't even have a coat. So I finally got to the woods, and he had a blazer and a peacoat. So he gave me his peacoat, and we sat in the woods all day. And he had a piece of bread and some lard that somebody gave him. And so we ate that, and by the time we got back, they wouldn't even want to hear about us. But what they did was they stripped all the people and they took money and they went nuts, supposedly. That's the story, at least, that I heard.
I don't know how I did it. you with me? It's not safe. So is there but me? So is there but me? Pressed against the chimney, sure if nothing else they'd hear my beating heart. Who but me to tell this story of courage, of blind faith? Some think it was a miracle. I don't know what it is. Enough of that.
Good, yeah.
Lucy, we're surrounded by all sorts of visually exciting stimuli in here, your artwork. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about when you started painting, what that was like for you.
Well, I can do even better.
Okay.
Here it is.
That's really beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, isn't that neat? We'll pass it around. Now, how old were you when you did this?
1945, 44.
And so you were
End of
about, so you're about 10, huh?
Yeah.
Wow,
Let's
this is
see.
really beautiful. And it's so optimistic.
And father's advice was to start using the false IDs and volunteer as foreign workers in Germany. And when I heard that, I thought, what a strange, crazy idea. Before the war, church and state were not separated, and a priest used to come to the school and teach catechism.
Yeah.
And they gave me a choice. As a Jew, I didn't have to stay in class. I could go home or play in schoolyard, but there was nothing going on, so I just stayed in school. And I just picked it up from listening. And we originally were brought with a big transport to Neustadt-Orlau, which was a small town in the central Germany. We worked, both of us, in a big factory and lived in they called it a lager, which was big barracks for foreign women. And to me it felt wonderful, and again I thought, well, we'll make it through the war. But a few months later we had to run because I could tell that some of the women began to suspect. We are not Catholic Poles but Jews. I suspected that this will be dangerous if it comes up, the rumor that we are Jews. And at first my sister thought I exaggerated. She said, there's nothing going on, what are you talking about? But then I convinced her. And after the war, I ran into someone, a young woman who recognized me. She said, we were in the same lager. Turned out she was Jewish too. And she said, the day you ran away, openly they were talking about that the two sisters were Jews and we have more of them. And sure enough, Gestapo did come. And she said around 30 women, Jewish women, were sent off to Auschwitz. Well, there were several close calls, but somehow made it. There was a Christmas party in Neustadt where we first worked, and you know, I knew all the songs and I knew all the prayers, but one thing you do is you walk around and you break off a piece of a wafer, holly or something. Right. So the girl came, one of the young women came to me and I broke off, you're supposed to put it in your mouth and take and say a prayer. And I did. But shortly after that, another girl came from the back to me. She said, you broke off a too big a piece.
Oh, okay. Don't do that again. The smaller one.
Well, I already started to look around, and it turned out the girl that warned me too late, she was Jewish herself.
The next, like, 4 or 5 years, where did you stay? How did you survive?
I went to another house that I stayed at until the very end, and there was an incident where I think some people think it was a miracle. Want me to tell you? Yes. Anyway, this place was called, it was Krasinski. It was a family she had. This particular weekend, one of my cousins came over to visit, and they had like a hiding place near the chimney in the attic, and she had grain next to it so that if somebody came to look, you know, this was my hiding place. So one Sunday morning, I was sitting there, you know, doing my chore, and I looked out in the windows, and there were 3 gendarmes with a German Shepherd. So, my cousin's name was Harry Kuklinski. So I ran to Harry and I said, hey, we got to go into our hiding place. And he was pretty tall, so you had to do all kinds of gyrations for both of us to fit in. But we finally fit in, and she covered it, and they came and they ransacked the house. They must have spent 2 hours. I think they had two dogs, and they looked all over the place. And I thought, you know, if nothing else, they're going to hear our heartbeats. Well, they didn't.
Did they come looking for you? Did somebody?
Well, yeah, they came looking for me. So she picked up her kids, and she went to a shrine because it was too far to go to a church, and they were Catholic. You know, everybody in Poland was Catholic, I think. Anyway, so she picked up her kids and she left. And then she came back and I said, you know, I just have to go. I can't do this to you, and it's not fair, and I'm going to go. And she says, you're not going anyplace. You're staying right here. And that's where I stayed until the end. And I learned so much about Catholicism that at one point I thought that I was going to convert because, you know why? because I thought if somebody can have such blind faith, then, you know, I need some of it.
But you didn't do it, right?
I didn't do it only because I had a brother and I had some other people, and I probably, if I was alone, I might have done it because I was so impressed with, you know, what she had done and to have this kind of faith. And when she came back, I said, so what did you think? She says, I didn't think anything. I knew that I was doing the right thing, and I knew that you were going to be all right, and I didn't even worry about it. I mean, that's courage or something. I don't know what it is.